Hello everyone, Goblin here, and welcome back to the Edain mod, where today we have the faction guide for the Misty Mountains, which was the most highly voted option out of the four I gave for the poll the other day. And yeah, this looks just as chaotic as the Misty Mountains are in general, and the guide for them is going to be just as chaotic as it should be, because the Misty Mountains has so much going for them, and honestly, all of it has a purpose. Unlike with Angmar, where we have the direwolves that don't really do much, all of the Misty Mountains has some value somewhere, which I may not know all of it. I'll admit I don't know all of it, but I do know a good amount of it because this faction is very fun to play. So if anyone who's not already watched my previous guide so far, we're going over the core mechanics, the strengths and weaknesses, how I prefer to play the faction, and then how best to beat an AI using this faction. So let's begin with the core mechanics, and that has to be the major tribes. Your camps and castles and outposts can be all dedicated, are all dedicated to the goblins of Moria. You can even see the banners of the Balrog there. You can see the Balrog banner there. Then we have Goblin Town, and we have Gundabad. But how we get them is through the Pioneers. We recruit one of these. The first one of the Goblin Town or Gundabad settlements we build is about 500. Second one is 1,000. Every other ones after that is 4,000. So, first one quite cheap, cheaper than a regular outpost. Second one is more expensive than an outpost, but not as expensive as a camp. And then finally, we have them being slightly less expensive than a castle, which does show how important these are to your overall faction. Goblin Town is where you get your resources from by getting these slave holes, on top of some mortal upgrades so you can get more resources, experience passively for your resource buildings, so they actually get levels. That's the only way your resource buildings level up. And then you also have reduced cost for upgrades. From Gundabad, you actually get your upgrades along with your better troops, the Orcs of Gundabad, or Goblins of Gundabad. In Goblin Town, you only get some goblins that can spawn more goblins, the Goblin Town Plunderers, as long as the Goblin King is on the field, the Great Goblin. And then you get Goblin Town Tunnel Diggers, which dig tunnels which access the tunnel network. So, yeah, a lot of ways of getting into the tunnel network through Goblin Town. I always prefer Goblin Town first because of that economy boost. Some people might play Gundabad, I don't. And then also, every one of the heroes you get, so the Chieftain, the Great Goblin, the Defiler, and Bolg, they all give levels to your recruitment buildings. The Chieftain for Moria, the Great Goblin for Goblin Town, the Defiler for Gundabad, and Bolg enhances all three because he is basically the big controller of the Misty Mountains. Because they are all just tribes. They're not really a united force like Mordor. They're not a faction brought together by the Witch King, or even a good faction that all works under one regime. These are just a random scattering of tribes that all somehow work together. When put like this, you can see it's, again, very chaotic. And you just have so many different things working all as one. I hope they bring out a good faction that has this kind of chaotic nature to it, like Bree, for example. One can hope, but if it will happen, we don't know. Next, we have to talk about their settlements, because every settlement allows you to recruit a certain type of unit, and technically the outpost does as well with the mountain giants, which, by the way, this is still bugged. You used to actually, I can show it at a tier 1 outpost fissure. You could see abilities you should be getting later on, but you don't get them. It's currently bugged where it gives you cave trolls instead, which it shouldn't. It should give you an ability to summon a lair similar to Untamed Allegiance, but it gives more experience to the fissure so it can level up. And at level 3, it has basically a mighty catapult, but you know, it's a mountain giant throwing a giant stone across the map. Although, unfortunately, currently you just get a troll instead. Nothing else is currently available. But I can prove that that is, in fact, what it should be. Because, well, if you look back at some of my videos, you'll actually see when this update was originally released. It does that. You can also see here, Giant's Wrath and Fissure's Call. Also, you have this passive ability here, the Strong Survive. As long as the Fissure stands, all Drakes, Giants, Trolls, Spiders, Broodmothers, Wild Packs, and Mountain Wargs gather bonus experience. And those are all units we get through the Untamed Allegiance, which I call lottery rolling. It's more like a dice roll. You get a Troll Cage, a Goblin Lair, a Warg Lair, or a Spider Lair. The only layers you can't get through this are obviously Drake Lairs, because that's your tier 4 power, and then the Barrow White Lairs, which you can even see on here on the Edain mods. I don't think you can control them though. Although, let me check. No, you can control Barrow Whites. So if you have a Barrow White lair on the map, you can use the Barrow Whites from Angmar. Although they don't get the buffs, so I don't see why you would use it. Very, very slow entities for that. Yeah, every one of your anyway, I went on a tangent. Every settlement has a recruitment. You have goblins, you have wargs, and you have trolls. And the more of these settlements you get, the higher discounts you get. Also, from the troll lair, you can get the troll brothers. You can also get them from a wild troll lair if you do happen to get them. And I also already went over the last core mechanic, is the free build mechanic with the tribes for Misty Mountains. You have Gundabad and Goblin Town, built by the pioneers. Again, cheap, get more expensive the more you build. But basically a way of stopping you from building everywhere, although obviously, again, the other free build aspect is the Untamed Allegiance and the Drakes. And even the drums, just being able to be spawned everywhere. With the Misty Mountains, you can just take over the entire map as if you were playing free build. Very few factions can do that. I'd say Belfalas is probably one of the only other factions that has this much wide availability to spawn things on the map. With things like Amraphos and obviously Lone Tower. Dwarves kind of get it as well, but they've only get like one Citadel and then Lone Towers, unless you get Durin as Erebor. But anyway, that's another tangent. On to their strengths and weaknesses. Firstly, strengths. They can recruit from anywhere. I've already talked about how any lair you take over with Pact of Hatred, that is a new recruitment point. Every settlement is a recruitment point. Every fissures are a recruitment point. 2 buildings through your camps, castles, and outposts. If you build the Misty Mount, I'm going to keep mixing this up. The Moria outpost, capital castle. You can get the Great Beast, which is your battering ram, and cave trolls, which are your short-range siege, I guess. And yeah, these are literally just battering rams, but very weak to melee, obviously, and not very weak to archers, similar to Gondor's siege. Gundabad has pseudo-elite pikemen, swordmen, and elite warg riders. You get your goblin units here on top of a drummer, which can give you more movement speed if you do get the drummer. He is there. Oh, I didn't realise they changed it. Oh, that's cute. The drummer troll actually has defenders now. Oh, that's cool. Actually, hold on. I need to test this. I actually need to test this. If I'm right about this, they actually made the drummer a viable unit. And it doesn't increase speed, it increases damage and armor now. I think it used to increase speed, so they actually shadow changed this. I did not know about this. Yeah, and this actually ranged, so the drummer troll will always stay in the back. That's cool. That is cool. They need to do that with more single entities, like the minstrels and such. That's really cool. I'm sorry. Again, another tangent, but that's actually really cool. They need to do more of that. Anyway, from the unique wild lairs, you can get mountain trolls. From spider lairs, you can get the spiders that you can get from Dol Guldur as Mordor. But also you get these broodmothers that can spawn little spiderlings that do all the damage, while she just kind of sits back and doesn't run into pikemen, otherwise she dies. You get unique pikemen from the goblin lairs that summon instead of from regular goblin lairs. You get a slightly weaker version of the cave troll, the stone troll. The main difference is that one can swap between... well, yeah, you can see here. This guy can only pick up a tree or a goblin. This guy can just switch between throwing stones and not throwing stones, and can also find an orc to eat instead. So a few differences there. But other than that, I think their stats are similar. So 3,240. 3,600. Okay, no, there are a few more differences. And then you have Bolg, who can recreate your heroic units, the Bolg's Elite. And then, of course, your tier 4 power for summoning drakes. You can get 3 cold drakes and then 3 baby drakes that eventually grow into fully fledged dragons with Fireball along with Smaug. Good old Smaug. He's there. He's your ring hero, although I still think one of the worst ring heroes in the game. Then yeah, massive hero monster roster. You have got a very good hero roster as well, though. Just not as good as some others. But yeah, your monster roster is insanely big. You've got like stone again, mountain giants we talked about. 2 different troll variants, wargs, spiders, dragons. You've got it all basically. You've got it all. And yeah, large maps are also very important because as you can see here, we've got a lot of work coming from this Goblin Town base. We could, if I had more space, show off an extra building on this, but I think Edain Unchained even made it so you can only make 4 buildings per Goblin Town because of how powerful every single building can be when put all together. And yeah, no matter how chaotic this faction is, you can always find some fun just by throwing everything together, and the enemy just will not be able to counter everything all at once. Especially if you start throwing dragons into the mix that are flying. If they've not got an archer defense, they are screwed. But now we come to their weaknesses, which are, they just have a lot of very squishy units. All these goblins are very cheap for a reason, because they are bad. They're not built to be good, similar to Mordor orcs, but unlike Mordor, where they have an obvious progression of Dol Guldur and Minas Morgul orcs, you have to go for Gundabad to get your Gundabad units, which are better, but only at a same tier as like, I would say again, Dol Guldur, Minas Morgul orcs. But then obviously Mordor has like Cirith orcs as well, which are incredibly good, along with their Uruks. They don't have a very large late game list of units. The Gundabad units can be made very powerful if teamed up well enough. They can do lots of damage. Azov the Defiler can do really well with them. Goblin Town, if you just need more units to spam, can work really well. But to be fair, all their units do get better through different things. The fact they are weak to start with just shows how they, again, not unified. However, this power does kind of give them a bit of uniformity with the Eternal Strife. You choose Moria, Goblin Town, or Gundabad. You get bonuses for all of your things from this. Ruins and Monster Caves recruit faster. Slave Holes make more money. Units, structures gain more armor. Mountain Giants get a bunch of various boosts on top of that. Like, for example, more HP, AoE damage when throwing stones, by just throwing more stones, and reflect damage and poison with Moria. And also, these Goblin Lairs will, let's just show it off by picking Moria. Oh, they changed immediately. Okay, that's cool. Cool, they changed that. Okay, so those Goblin Lairs don't know, but you can see here now we've got a full roster of Goblin units we can make through our Goblin Lairs. If I actually remembered to use this guy's ability to just reset Eternal Strife, I could have used it to change to like Gundabad and show you can make Gundabad orcs as well from them. But yeah, all these cool little things, even as a weakness, is still as good. They are, however, also, because they're squishy, weak to AoE attacks. As we showed off a lot, Angmar is a very good counter to this faction if you are just still running around early game with goblins. AI Angmar will decimate a Misty Mountains if they don't start going for good elite power, or just have the speed to get out of it, which thankfully, again, Drums of the Mountain, that extra movement speed will save your life more than once. And then also the fact that all your monsters are weak to either pikemen or archers, or both, if they, can go between flying and not flying. Then if you're running into them, pikemen really bad. If you're flying in the sky, or even just throwing stones from afar, archers are really bad for you to deal with. And you also don't have any good archers. You have 2 early tier goblin units that are your entire ranged faculty. So against a flying army of dragons of someone else's, you're screwed. Also, eagles and Nazgul are the two other big examples of whenever you see flying entities. The Misty Mountains does not do well in the sky, unless you know they already have the sky superiority through their dragons. Now, for my preferred way of playing the Misty Mountains, I do the same thing every single game, is just get as many settlements as I can, go all goblin lairs, and just spam out these goblins. They're not as cheap as like Mordor orcs, but their recruit speed is way faster. And the fact you can recruit them from every single settlement means you'll always be at high command points. Just expect them to die constantly. Get your expandostoriums high. Keep making more goblins over and over and over again until you can start getting your heroes. The chieftain, for example, is a very important early game trick to stop cavalry, because you need pikemen, and pikemen can only be recruited from a tier 2 ruin to begin with, unless you go for Gundabad, in which case you can get the pikemen there. But they're also way more expensive, and if you lose them, you're losing not just the resources they were worth, but also the resources you could have gained by building a Goblin Town first. As I said already, Goblin Town first is priority. Get these slave holes up. Doesn't matter if you don't get a loot horde all the time. You can build more Goblin Towns. You're not always limited to one. You can build more. Get Gundabad as you start getting into the mid-late game, because these units will start competing with other factions. But most importantly, use the dice roll effect from Untamed Legions. Doesn't matter which one you get, they're always good in some way or another. Trolls obviously are the best, because of the fact that, one, they spawn a troll, and two, you can get more trolls from them at a very reasonable price if you do start getting the stone troll layers built up, because that gives you even more discounts on these stone trolls. And every little bit of resources counts until you can get your middle tier power, one of the best middle tier powers in the game, Scavenger. Just resources off everything. Misty Mountains is probably one of the most resource heavy factions in the game, but it doesn't show very often because you've not got things like going for your settlement and base tools. You know, where you normally get levels up for your resource buildings that way with every other faction does, except for also Mordor. But yeah, you need to just keep building those resources up, get a good roster of monsters along with a decent frontline. It doesn't even need to be good frontline. Goblin warriors along with some Gundabad orcs is all you really need. But yeah, you do want to have a nice monster roster while getting your heroes. I've already said how important these heroes are because they all offer different level ups for your buildings. They also have very good powers. The chieftain, after shooting his bow enough times or striking with his sword enough times, will just spawn more warrior goblins who can poison for you. You can also spawn totems for bonus damage, on top of increasing that amount with heavy armor and can exceed the command point limit, on top of just constantly replenishing more troops that die. I just want to test this now. I finally got a chance to test it. Let's kill off the goblins. Do we get more? I need to know. Does it work? I need to reread this. For a short time, all fallen members of Horde in the vicinity of the selected tunnel are replaced by new warriors. I'm going to move them even closer. We must rise up. Do we get new soldiers, or is this bugged? Will this ever work? I think the answer is no. God damn it. One day I will understand how this power works and what do you need to do to make it work, because why? Why does it not work? Why can't it just be simple, like spawn goblins at a cave or tunnel network? I don't know. And then you also got Azog for your hero killing, and again, just getting those Warg Riders can greatly improve your chances against factions that are very archer heavy and can just snipe down your monsters. Use the cavalry to snipe the snipers, basically. And then you've also got Bill, Tom and Bert. It's not imperative to get them, although having a entity that can swap between going high AoE damage, but sorry, no, larger AoE, less damage for spam factions, a stone for siege damage, or just regular, just hit people with a soup ladle for that that regulated damage. All of it is good, and then you can also summon all three of them and make them very, very angry. On top of, as I've already said, bold, giving you your best troops, allowing you to give your units banner carriers is one of the most unique abilities in the game for a faction leader. On top of just weakening enemies, making sure you can always see where they are, and so on. And then you've also got Smaug, so just massive army killing potential. Yeah, this faction cooks nearly every faction in the game. And honestly, a lot of it is because of the busted power of the Mountain Giants. These guys are insanely powerful. Get enough of them, and you can just destroy an enemy base from a good distance, and you don't even have to worry too much about them. As long as you keep pikemen away from them, it's not like regular siege where they can just get destroyed all of a sudden from some units coming in. These guys can, just like Ents, which I'm not talked about yet, but Ents, even though they can't stomp like the Mountain Giants can, these Mountain Giants hurt like hell. This is definitely one of the most oppressive units in the game, for sure. And yeah, just have fun with this faction is all I can really say. As I've said with every other faction so far, this is the kind of faction you can just have fun with and just play around with, and you'll honestly never have a bad time. As long as you don't let the enemy just dominate. Oh yeah, and I've just proven it now. Goblin Lairs can make your Gundabad troops if you use Eternal Strife. Same would be the same with Goblin Town. So yeah, if you want just all elite troops spammed, Eternal Strife on Gundabad. Just get them from your Goblin Lairs. Really good. Really, really good. But now we need to talk about how we beat them. And honestly, play to the late game. Playing into a late game against the Misty Mountains is the best way to beat them. Unless you're playing like an 8-player free-for-all and then just get stuck between a bunch of factions and get demolished early, goblins will last forever. If you don't destroy them yourself, the AI very likely won't. It takes an AI Misty Mountains to take out an AI Misty Mountains, is what I've seen. Pikemen are your best friend for the reasons I'm saying that Pikemen are. You've just got a large monster roster. Use Pikemen against most of their roster. It will dominate them very easily. These basic goblins do not do nearly any damage to a decently well-armoured, elite, or basic pikeman unit that of a more unified faction like Gondor, or even Rohan. Peasants with full upgrades will beat most goblins, hands down. Very easy for them, especially if they've got the boost from not just draft, obviously, but also from just being near a flour mill. Or even just being near Theoden. Use a lot of archers as well, because things like Smaug do exist. I've never seen an AI use dragons, but they do use Smaug, and Smaug is terrifying. That's why it's called Smaug the Terrible. But also, having archers to deal with things like Mountain Giants is a very big boon. Lothlorien is a very good faction against the Misty Mountains. If you focus your archers against their big boys. If you focus your archers against their trash, then you're screwed, because you're throwing your highest damage dealers against these terrifying threats on their weakest units that are personally meant to be arrow fodder. And if you do get to the late game, be ready for the Balrog. Very few factions can actually fully counter the Balrog. But when he is on the field, when you see his animation play, I don't know why it didn't play on this, probably because I've been playing on this for so long, or because it's the Edain Wars, I don't know. But yeah, if you see the Balrog start coming in, run the other way. Run as far away as possible. They know how to flame breath, and it can destroy nearly anything it touches. With just one quick sweep, just showing here. Okay, yeah, I think the effects are wearing down because of how long this video has been going on for and how long it took me to set this all up. Yeah, if you see the Balrog come out, run away. The only time I've ever been able to beat the Balrog was when I had Ring Hero Thorin, Oakenshield, and a full army of dwarves, made them all invulnerable. The Balrog just sat there, and I absolutely demolished him with an army of invulnerable dwarves. That's the only way I've ever beaten Durin's Bane. Otherwise, his timer does run out pretty quickly, but the damage he can deal in such a small amount of time is actually ridiculous. Do not let the Balrog get any value against you. Unlike the Arm of the Dead, he is not fast. He doesn't like to fly. He will just flame breath you and ignite himself and then just do massive damage to anything in the area. If need be, get one of your weakest units, like a unit of goblins, and have them just lure the Balrog away from the rest of your army. Similar to what I said about Arm of the Dead in the past, in how to beat them. Just run away from the Balrog in several directions to protect your most important things, which are normally your heroes. Except for the Hunter, of course. He is a very good distraction because he doesn't do much. He summons a Warg Gradient, and that's pretty much the best thing he does. Otherwise, he's got a bunch of activate abilities that don't give you much for pushing power. But yeah, against the Misty Mountains, they can be very easily swept underfoot, but they can also very easily just dominate you if you let them. If you're attacking a Misty Mountains faction, go for their outposts first. Their camps, their castles, go for them first. Don't let them get built up with mountain giants, because these things will dominate entire games. Don't let them get dragons, because they do actually make dragons. Well, they make the lair. I've never seen them actually summon a dragon from the lair. Don't let them use the Tunnel of the Deep for their best ability, which is just constantly fighting in this area with all their other things. If this is brought out early game, run away if you can, because the units that spawn from here do not last long. If this is late game, and you see the spawn out, destroy it quickly. The units that come out of it are honestly quite trashy at this point in the game, but as you can see, they do spawn Gundabad Orcs. So yeah, don't let this stay around for too long, because look how many units it's making. I think it makes a total of 10 units for free, as long as a building that has how much health? 1,500. It has less health than a Goblin lair at level 1. So it's very easily destroyed. It's basically lone tower health. Destroy it before it gets troublesome, or run away from it, because it has only got a temporary timer on it, as you can see here. And that is everything for the Misty Mountains. This is making this video was as chaotic as I thought it would be, and you know what? It deserved to be. This faction is a faction you can't really give real logic to. You just have all this mixed match stuff, make it work however you want, because this faction is so incredible, so incredibly fun, and I hope they make a good faction similar to this. And as I said, like Breland, make Breland with access to elves, dwarves, Dunedain, everything. Give them everything. It'd be so fun. And I will see you. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next one. Farewell.